Stanley Ho and Macau shared more than half a century of intertwined fortunes. But even as the city now looks at a future beyond casinos, he will always be linked to the rise of the world's biggest gambling hub.
Monte Carlo of the East is a name often given to Macau for its dazzling casinos, lavish lifestyle, and its status as Asia's playground for the rich. Much like Monaco's Monte Carlo, it became a hub of glamour and entertainment. But you'll be surprised to know it all began because of one refugee. Yes, you have heard it right. In 1941, Stanley Ho fled the Japanese occupation of Hong Kong and arrived in Macau with just $2 in his pocket. What he built would turn this sleepy town into the world's gambling capital, surpassing even Las Vegas. Curious to know? Then let's dive deeper into how he did it. Let's begin with a shocking fact. Macau is a city in a country where gambling is strictly illegal, yet its gaming industry is 7 times bigger than Las Vegas. But that's just the beginning of what makes Macau so fascinating. Despite being the most crowded city on Earth, with people packed into every corner, more than 2/3 of Macau isn't even natural land. It's built on water, reclaimed straight from the sea. This mix of extremes doesn't stop there. Macau is both Portuguese and Chinese, blending East and West in a way that's hard to find anywhere else, especially in its unique architecture. What's even more interesting is how Macau and Hong Kong share the one country, two systems policy, but went down entirely different roads. While Hong Kong grew into a bustling trade hub, Macau, once a Portuguese colony, struggled to keep up in the same competition. But instead of fading away, Macau found its own path, and it changed everything. So, with limited options, Macau turned to gambling and beautiful ladies of the night. This gave the city an edge, and it worked. Legalizing gambling in the 1850s and turning a blind eye to other shady activities gave the economy a boost. Gambling became part of Macau's soul, as natural as a bird taking to the sky. But wait, water was also Macau's biggest problem. For centuries, Macau had been using land reclamation to grow. It all began in the 17th century when a land bridge was built to connect the main island of Macau to mainland China. By 1912, Macau was just 2 islands covering 11.6 square kilometers. Back then, the city didn't look like it does now. In fact, what we see today used to be 2 separate islands, Taipa and Cologne. The space between them? That was reclaimed by a method called infilling, where large rocks were piled up and then filled with clay until the new land rose above the sea level. This technique became one of Macau's specialties, one that it would perfect over the next 100 years. In 1941, the gambling king arrived to claim his crown. Stanley Ho came from a family that had once been wealthy but lost everything during the Great Depression. His father's fortune vanished in the stock market crash, and he fled to Vietnam, leaving behind his wife and children. At just 13, Ho found himself facing a world of hardship, but he was determined to live the high life again. After escaping the Japanese occupation, Ho's journey began humbly when he took up a clerical job at a Japanese-owned import-export firm in Macau. But his sharp mind and bold spirit soon set him apart. During World War II, he made his first fortune by smuggling luxury goods and food across the Chinese border from Macau. With the money he earned, Ho founded a kerosene company in 1943 and later established a construction business. These early ventures were just the beginning of his rise to power. His entrepreneurial spirit caught the attention of powerful allies, including Hong Kong tycoon Henry Fok, Macau gambler Yip Han, and his brother-in-law Teddy Yip. Together, they decided to go after Macau's gaming monopoly. In 1961, they bid for the franchise, offering a high price and promising to promote tourism and develop infrastructure. Their offer stood out, and they secured the license for $410,000, with $51,000 of that amount provided by Henry Fok. This bold move defeated the long-standing casino operators, the Fu family, by a margin of just MOP 17,000. That's why, by the 1960s, Ho had become a powerful figure in the city. With his wealth and influence, he was now a key player in shaping Macau's future. And the best part is, in 1962, Stanley Ho gained an exclusive gambling license in Macau, giving him a monopoly on the city's gaming industry, a monopoly that would last for the next 40 years. He wasted no time building several casinos, including his crowning achievement, the Casino Lisboa. When it opened in 1970, it was unlike anything Macau had ever seen before. A massive, fully equipped casino with glittering lights and a bold, golden facade. It looked both retro and futuristic at the same time, setting the tone for the city's transformation. This was Macau's answer to Las Vegas, but with its own unique twist. By the late 20th century, the Casino Lisboa had become one of the largest and most profitable casinos in the world. But as you know, with such rapid success came a problem. The city of Macau couldn't keep up with its newfound popularity. This led to a construction boom. The road networks, public transportation, and even the airport needed upgrades. Fortunately, the tax revenue from the booming gambling industry gave Macau the funds it needed to expand and modernize. Stanley Ho also made his mark by pioneering a ferry system that brought wealthy businessmen straight from Hong Kong and the Chinese mainland. This wasn't just good for the economy. It helped the city physically grow as well. More land was reclaimed to make room for even more casinos and hotels. Macau began to swell, expanding at an incredible rate. Ho understood one basic and simple thing: money talks and money builds. But don't forget the controversy. Ho faced accusations of working with organized crime to build his empire, claims he has always denied. Still, this didn't stop him from reshaping the city. As the year turned to 2000, things began to change for Macau. On December 20th, 1999, the city was handed over to the People's Republic of China, ending 442 years of Portuguese rule. It's a new chapter now, and with this new chapter came new challenges. Just a few years later, in 2002, the gambling king would face new invaders, a competition that would threaten his reign over the city. Stanley Ho's monopoly over Macau came to an end, and suddenly other companies were allowed to join the gambling market. Big names like Wynn Resorts and MGM quickly moved in, bringing the glitz and glamour of Vegas to the east. But the gambling king wasn't ready to give up his throne. Determined to stay on top, Ho turned to his pride and joy, the Casino Lisboa. He planned an expansion so massive and luxurious that it would outshine anything Asia had ever seen. The result was the Grand Lisboa, which opened its doors in 2007. Designed by architects Dennis Lau and Ng Chun Man, the Grand Lisboa was impossible to miss. Bold, extravagant, and towering over the city, it was a statement of power and ambition, showing the world that the king was still in the game. In fact, the Grand Lisboa was meant to be the exact opposite of subtle. It was a bold, flashy declaration that while foreign companies could build their casinos in Macau, the island still belonged to the king. Inspired by the blooming lotus flower, the tower extends 20 meters on each side, rising from a golden spherical base designed to look like a crown. How fitting for a gambling king. Gold wasn't just for show. It's a lucky color in Chinese culture, symbolizing wealth, fortune, and prosperity. And you can see it everywhere in the Grand Lisboa. From the shimmering exterior to the lavish interior, gold dominates the design. Inside, there are 430 luxury rooms, several Michelin star restaurants, and more than 1,000 slot machines, all under one roof. This skyscraper was meant to secure Macau's place as one of the world's top gambling destinations. And fittingly, its grand opening marked a historic moment when Macau's gaming revenue officially surpassed that of Las Vegas. By 2013, Macau's gambling revenue had skyrocketed to $45 billion, making it the largest gambling market in the world. But again, new challengers were heating up. This was when construction on the Morpheus Hotel began, a bold project led by Ho's rivals. While the Grand Lisboa was impressive at $385 million, the Morpheus took luxury to a whole new level, costing a staggering $1.1 billion. Both the Grand Lisboa and the Morpheus are stunningly bold in design, but the Morpheus pushes the boundaries even further. It builds on the extravagance and flamboyance that the Grand Lisboa introduced, taking it to unimaginable heights. Designed by the legendary architect Zaha Hadid in 2012, the Morpheus became one of her final masterpieces, as fate would have it, before her untimely death a few years later. Inspired by the flowing shapes of nature, the Morpheus Hotel stood out in a city full of flashy designs. Unlike many of Macau's other buildings, it didn't follow any traditional architectural styles. Instead, its design was born out of necessity, using the foundations of an abandoned condominium. This unique approach gave the building a character all its own. What made the Morpheus truly striking was its crisscrossing exoskeleton. It was visually stunning, and also one of the most complex steelwork structures ever built on such a large scale. The challenge wasn't just its weight. It was the fact that this exoskeleton acted as the building's main support. Unlike most skyscrapers, which rely on interior columns for stability, the Morpheus relied entirely on its outer framework. This innovative design made it a marvel of engineering, blending art and science into futuristic and organic. To make this design a reality, the structure used over 25,000 tons of steel, assembled with incredible precision. The engineering had to be flawless to ensure the building could stand strong against the typhoon winds that frequently hit the region. But all the effort paid off in the end. Because the main supports are on the outside, the interior was freed up to create massive open spaces. This design shines in the breathtaking 40-meter-high lobby, a space that feels almost otherworldly. Advanced 3D printing technology played a big role in making this possible, allowing the architects to craft intricate shapes for both the facade and the interior. This was one of the first large-scale uses of 3D printing in construction, pushing boundaries in every way. Much of the hotel had to be prefabricated due to its complexity. Stanley Ho, the gambling king of Macau, lived a life as grand as the empire he built. With 4 wives and 17 children, he had spent nearly 8 decades transforming the city that once gave him refuge. By 2018, Ho retired, leaving behind a legacy that forever changed Macau. He passed away in 2020. Today, Macau is heading in a new direction. While it still welcomes millions of tourists, there's a noticeable shift. The Morpheus Hotel is a perfect symbol of this change, no longer just a haven for gamblers, but a destination for luxury seekers. Yet even as the city dazzles with its opulence, it faces the challenge of taking care of its own people. Back in 1912, Macau was just 2 small islands with a combined area of 11.6 square kilometers. Now, thanks to relentless land reclamation, the city has tripled in size to 33 square kilometers. It's home to about 700,000 residents and sees 32 million visitors annually. This makes Macau the most densely populated place in the world, where more people live per square kilometer than anywhere else. Maybe now, for the first time, the authorities are thinking about the people who live here. The Chinese Special Administrative Region of Macau has unveiled its new urban master plan for 2020 to 2040. This plan is called the New Macau Urban Zone. This master plan breaks Macau's land into 18 different areas, each with its own purpose. These include places for homes, businesses, tourists, entertainment, and public needs. There are also zones set aside for nature and public spaces, making sure the city grows in a balanced way. With this new urban development plan, Macau has big dreams. It wants to become the central city of the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macau metropolitan area and raise its status both regionally and globally. By connecting better with nearby areas and expanding its industries, Macau hopes to shine as a global center for tourism, entertainment, and travel. But while looking to the future, the plan also has an eye on improving life for the people who live here. It aims to make living conditions better for residents and, just as importantly, to protect the city's rich history and cultural heritage. One of the most fascinating parts of Macau's 2020 to 2040 master plan is the creation of new land. The administration plans to reclaim about 3 square kilometers from the sea. As you already know right now, Macau is one of the most crowded places on Earth, with around 680,000 people living on just 33 square kilometers. By 2040, the city expects to grow to 800,000 people spread across 36.6 square kilometers. This additional land is crucial for the city's future. It will make room for housing, commercial zones, tourism, green spaces, and public areas. The plan includes landfill projects to expand the city's footprint, with extra landfills along the coast and even one for airport expansion, ensuring Macau can keep growing. Macau's total area is divided into 2 main categories. 18% is set aside as non-urban zones, which include hills, waters, and wetlands, while the remaining 82% is designated as urban zones. These urban areas are planned to host new commercial and economic activity zones in different parts of the city. Furthermore, it focuses on creating opportunities for people to work closer to where they live, aiming to balance residential and professional needs more effectively. This focus on balance ties closely to one of Macau's biggest challenges: housing. About a third of the city's homes are over 30 years old, making urban renewal an urgent need. The growing population, along with new demands for climate-resilient buildings, has made updating the city's housing infrastructure a top priority. However, progress can be slow because urban renewal projects require approval from households, often leading to delays or even standstills. The new master plan provides clear and helpful guidelines for development. By organizing the city into different planning districts, it simplifies zoning processes. This approach is expected to make it easier to approve and carry out housing projects, which is an important step toward solving Macau's housing challenges. Within the urban zones, which cover about 80% of Macau's land, the plan allocates the space thoughtfully. About 22% of the land is set aside for residential use, ensuring there's room for housing. Public infrastructure takes up 23%, supporting essential services and connectivity. Meanwhile, 13% is reserved for tourism and entertainment, emphasizing Macau's global appeal. Public facilities cover 10%, green spaces account for 8%, commercial land gets 4%, and 2% is dedicated to industrial use. The remaining 18% of Macau's land is classified as non-urban zones, focusing on the protection of natural resources. According to the master plan, these areas aim to preserve the city's scenic beauty, archaeological sites, cultural heritage, and historical landmarks. By safeguarding hills, waters, wetlands, and biodiversity, Macau SAR is showing its commitment to environmental conservation. Building on this preservation effort, the new urban landfill plan will add more green and public spaces in the east, the outer harbor area, and North Taipa. At the same time, Macau will continue to protect its existing large green spaces under this development plan. Looking ahead to 2040, the government expects that every person in Macau will have access to at least 3.6 square meters of green and public leisure areas. When you include the ecological conservation zones, this number grows to an impressive 12 square meters per person. This shift is long overdue. Macau has thrived as a playground for tourists, but its residents have been struggling with overcrowding and high housing costs. The new Macau urban zone is a step toward addressing these pressing issues that the city can no longer ignore. The gambling king may no longer walk the streets of Macau, but his legacy still shines brightly in the city he transformed. Today, Macau is alive with energy, full of contrasts and stories, and its architecture alone tells tales of ambition and extravagance. As Macau grows, there's a growing hope that its future will focus more on its people. If the new Macau is truly meant for its residents, then maybe the next king won't be a single person, but the people of Macau themselves. So what do you think? Is Macau's future now about focusing on its people, or will it always be driven by the glam and glitter of its casinos? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you can see more videos like this. See you in our next video. Until then, take care and thanks for watching.